everybody. My name is Karunya Sethuraman, and welcome to Temple Carving Demystified. Today, we're going to talk about lotuses, which are very important and very commonly found in a lot of Indian sculpture pieces. And since this is Temple Carving Demystified, got to devote one show to it. So over here on my left, I'm going to show you a statue. It's the Dhanvantri. If you've seen the previous episodes, we've used this before. And on the bottom at the base, it's a lotus. And this is very common. Most sculptures have a lotus as their base. And so today, we're just going to focus on this lotus. Later, we'll have all the skills to do the whole person, but right now, just the lotus. And on my right side, I have another example of the lotus right here. It's the base for the goddess Ganesha. And as you can see, this lotus is a little more advanced than the other lotus. And I'm going to be teaching you how to make a lotus just like this today. Except, as I said, it will be a standalone lotus. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to start with just a plain block of wood. It's about this size, so maybe the size of a finger. And we're going to start by drawing a design on it. And so since we've already done quite a bit of carving, I thought we can try just drawing on the wood to begin with instead of using a paper and then transferring it. So we're going to draw a lotus. And the way you do this is you're going to want to have the top of the lotus like this, like a little umbrella, side of an umbrella, but the bottom will go up more like this, right? And so here we go. You can always darken it over with a marker or a felt pen, but it's probably good to start off with pencil just in case you do something you didn't want. And then we're going to go down, making it into a bowl-like shape, like this. And of course, this is just a rough sketch, so then it's time to go back and make it really symmetrical, exactly the way you want it. So here, make that a little bit more. And then you have a rough outline of the top of a lotus on the side. And then you have to do the bottom. So it's basically going to be this, but scrunched up thinner. Just like this, same shape, an inverted bowl, and then those little umbrella type things. And since this is a standalone piece, we want it to have a base. So you'll just draw a straight line. If you cannot draw a straight line just by itself, there's always a handy dandy ruler. You can use that, line it up, draw a straight line, and you're good. And then of course, go back, make it really symmetrical, exactly the way you want it. And once we're done with that, we're ready to copy this design onto all of the other pieces, sides of the block, because we're doing it 3D, right? So we're going to be carving on all four sides, not just one side anymore. And I have already prepared a piece with a drawing. I've spent a little bit of time making it really the way I want. You can see I have my rough draft here. It doesn't matter, you don't need to erase it. That will all be cut away, all this area. And so, first of all, you have this really nice symmetrical lotus, and you spent quite a bit of time, and now you're thinking, how am I going to do that on all the other sides? That's going to be hard. Fear not. This lotus is made up of sections, right, that have straight lines. So you can actually use a ruler to divide this whole block into little pieces like a Rubik's Cube. So we have this right here, this line, right? So we're going to hold it so that we can see both sides at the same time. And then we're just going to go like this and make it a straight line there. So if you draw a short one, it'll most likely be exactly perpendicular to the side of your piece, but don't worry. And then we're going to take our ruler, line it up to both edges, and line it up with this line. So this edge of the ruler, line it up with the line, just as you would to connect the dots. And as soon as you're confident and straight, just draw a line connecting this little segment with the other edge. And if you're like, oh, well, I don't think this is exactly straight, go ahead, do it again. That's not a problem. All right, so now that you have the top finished, we can try to transcribe this part. So again, I'm going to divide this into a section right on this line, which separates the top of the lotus and the bottom of the lotus. I'm going to flip it over. Again, I'm going to look at this line. I'm going to say, where is that? And I'm going to draw a little line segment on the other side at the same inch length. And then I'm going to take my ruler, just as I did in the previous piece, and now that you've done one straight line, you can use this line to line up your other line and make sure it's straight, which will save you a little bit of hassle getting a straight line. When you're done with that, we have the bottom of the lotus and the base to do, and fortunately for us, these extend all the way. We don't have to draw another line, and then we will use the edge of this line over here, put it on here, and make a straight line connecting it. All right, and then eventually you'll get faster at this. You can just draw a line, take the ruler, put the ruler, and draw the line. And then what you're going to do is repeat this on this side, so same line segment like this, line segment like this, and like this. And then you can take your ruler, just go ahead and do it fast now that you have a lot of practice. And like that, and like that. All right, so now that we have the partitions, we know how thick everything should be. Then this part is a little harder, but you'll get used to it. I'm sure you can all do it. And so you just draw this same curve over here. Just look at it. Do they look the same to you? That's enough. Because in the end, you will be carving this a lot, and it won't really matter whether this was perfectly symmetrical. So don't worry about symmetry. It'll look really normal in the end. And then the same curve that starts up here and goes down. Like that. And then, if you're not sure how much distance to put between here, just take your ruler. I usually like to just use a piece of wood because I can use custom measurements on that, because usually the drawing I make is not exactly 1 inch or something like that. And so you just mark that there, flip it over to the other side, line this mark up with the edge of your cube, and make a little dot here. And since you've probably done it symmetrically on both sides, it will be equal on both sides, and you can use the same marking on the other side to tell you where to end the top of your lotus. And once you have these two markings, you can go and take that shape and connect it all the way to the bottom. Do the same on the other side, like that. Sometimes it's a little hard to, you don't have anything to brace your hand on. So if you just take another block of wood, it's usually a little bit more helpful to draw it. And then we can do the same thing for this. We know that this starts at our already marked point and goes down like this and comes to the end. So we'll start at this point that we've marked, and we will go down. We'll make that little curve at the bottom. Do the same thing on the other side, like that. And voila, basically done. Except that we have these little curves, and as I said before, don't worry about symmetry, because in the end it'll all work out. And then we have this. The base is just a square, so we don't have to worry about that. And you have basically the same thing here that you have here. Symmetrical. So as I said, you'll draw lines on this one, draw lines on this one, then you go the same way, comparing this and this, and redrawing the curves, and you will be ready to go. So, to that end, now that we're ready to go, we're ready to cut away things. So all the things inside this black outline and the base are things we want to keep. We can take out this part that I'm shading over here, and this part, the edge, and then the same symmetric parts on the other side, like that. So you want to take this out, take this out, take this out, take this out. You want to keep these. These are your lotus. And then you can get ready with the chisel. So now that we're using chisels, we need 2 hands. We can't just hold this with 1 hand. So we're going to use the block, another block, just a spare block, and our trusty clamp. So this is just a clamp that I got at a local hardware store. So basically any clamp will work. So find a good surface that's not too flimsy and clamp it to that, like this. And for me, I'd actually probably want it to be on the left side, but it's really a matter of preference. So just make sure it's nice and tight. So the trick with this is we can't really clamp this in the middle right here, because then the clamp is going to be in the way when we're trying to use our chisels, and we won't be able to flip it around. And so for a 3D piece, it's really useful to have a block that's taller than the piece, so that you can just brace this against this piece. So you want to make this piece really tightly connected to the table. So then we want to take this out, right? So maybe first instinct is to go like this, but wood chips rather easily. So it's probably better to start on this side and take it out sideways, like this at an angle. So to do that, brace it this way against the table, and then, since this is your center line that you already marked, just make a small indent in there. You don't want to go all the way down, because if you try to force the metal through there, the wood is just going to be unhappy and crack. And that would be slightly disastrous. So don't do that. So just a little bit, right? And then this is the line where it's supposed to be exactly level with the cube that we started with. So we're going to also make an indent a little farther away from the line, because if we make an indent here, it'll go down like a little centimeter, and here we want it to be level. So we're going to do it maybe half a centimeter away from that line. It doesn't really matter exactly how much, just don't do it exactly on the line. So you're going to do the same level of hitting that you did with this one. And then it's time to use that diagonal thing to take out this portion, like that. And so what you're going to do is just go like this, sideways. And since you already hit both these sides and made a line, this wood piece will come off in the end. And if it doesn't come off and you didn't go farther enough, no worries. Better to go less than more. So just hit it out, and this will come out. Make it all come out. And there you go. This is starting to come inside. So you're going to do this all the way, and then you're going to flip it around. And I said this is why the brace is so much easier, because if you have to re-clamp it every 5 minutes, it's kind of annoying. So just go like this, and go the opposite direction. And then once you're trying to hit closer to this, do the same. Leave a little gap, just in case something goes wrong, and make a slight hit. Continue that all the way down like you did here, and then you can start your chisel at the line you made and go straight down like that. And voila! So as you see, right now you can just go however deep you want, but then as you get closer to this, do it in smaller and smaller layers. So here, I can just go straight down, but later I'm going to have to be a little more judicious and maybe take it out little by little, like this much. So it's a pretty thin wafer, like a piece of paper. All right, so now that you've gotten this side, you're thinking, oh, how do I do this side? And for this side, you're going to do a different thing. You're not going to go sideways because it's a little hard. You can actually go straight down on the corner and just brace the block with your left arm, like that. And then, once you've cut off a little bit, then start again and go down. So as you can see, I go for a little bit, then I let it fall off, and then I keep on going down, because otherwise I might end up going deeper into the wood than I want. I'll lose some of my precious lotus. And remember, it's always better to go a little bit and then a little bit more than to go too much and be like, oh no, where did my lotus go? So as you can see, I have a little less here, so I'm going to go back and make this more level. Right. So now that you have this, now we will go sideways and go at that angle, like you said before. This, and then, so this is when the brace becomes really useful, because you can hit against the brace, and you can go pretty close, like this, and then a little bit more. So always just a little bit at a time, because you never know when something's going to crack. It just depends on the piece of wood you have. Some are more brittle, and some are easier to work with. So keep on going. See, if you don't have it braced against here, it's a little difficult. So let's take that. All right. This is pretty okay. Just you can do more eventually. And then you'll repeat that here and repeat that here. And then you will have something that looks roughly like this. As you can see, you've taken out this side here, taken out the curve up here, like that, like that. Of course, we didn't have to do anything with the base. And if you're feeling adventurous, you can take out this little part right here. It's not totally necessary. All right, so we have this really nice flower-shaped thing. This is the top, this is the bottom. Great, right? But it doesn't look really natural because, you know, a square. So, time to make it into a circle. So you can use a compass, or if you like drawing circles, you can just draw a circle. It doesn't really matter if it's symmetrical or not. And I've already drawn it here, but basically choose a midpoint. And if you want to really measure this, just use a ruler, find the center point. And then you're going to have to use the compass, but also just use your own skills because it's not going to be exactly flat here. Remember, we took off this edge, right? So now we have this curved edge here. And so you'll need to put your pencil down, like a little lower, and go down that slope and up that slope again. So just do it until you think it looks sort of circly, and then do it in marker and get ready to chisel it off. So this is slightly harder to chisel off because you need to chisel off all the way down, right? So just start, as I said, little by little, because otherwise you will regret it. And so you will just clip it off little by little. On the bottom, it's especially imperative that you keep on checking every few moments that it's not further in than the top. If it does end up being a little further in, don't bother, but it's probably good to try to make them symmetrical. And you will do that on all four sides, and then you will have a circular shape with this lotus design shape. All right. Awesome, right? So, as I said, you'll have a circular shape like this. And then it's time to make the lotus drawing. So, I've already drawn it so you can see what it's supposed to look like. And so you're going to choose about an inch distance between this if you do it this size. It's really your choice, but usually lotus petals are rather large, so it's probably not good to make them very small. And then if you space these out 1 inch by 1 inch, eventually you'll get to the end, and when you have 2 petals left to draw, you have to be careful and just split it in half, because otherwise you might get a little sliver, because we can't always be perfect, but that's okay. And if it does turn out that you have this little sliver, then just try it again and you'll be fine. And then for the bottom, since we want to have a little variety, the bottom petals are not going to line up with this. They're going to be exactly in the center of each, like that. That's in the center, and that's in the center. So it's 1 inch apart, because to be in the center, it has to be 1 inch apart. And once you've done that, you basically have the outlines of your petals, and then since petals are rounded, after you draw this line all the way to the edge, then make sure to take your pencil and draw a circle on the edge, just a rounded edge, and you can do it however deep you want, like this, right? All right, then we come to the top. So you have this, it's nice, but now you have to look at the top. And for this, it's important to make an umbrella shape, and then in these triangles that are left behind after you draw the shape, just draw a center line. And I will show you the finished product so you can get an idea of what the point of this is. So these umbrella shapes right here will become something that looks like this. And these triangles will look like this. So it'll look like you have 2 layers of petals. All right. Now that we know how to draw everything, we've marked out everything, we're ready to go. So we're done with chisel time. Now it's just detail work. Put our chisels away and bring our little handheld tools. So, to make the gap between the 2 petals, we should use this arrow tool. It's shaped like a V, and it creates something akin to a furrow, like you would create in the ground. It just makes a little V-shaped valley throughout the wood. So, once you're ready with that, start in the middle and go upwards, right? And then you'll hit this curve right here, and you won't be able to go upwards anymore because it'll meet too much resistance. So then you'll flip it around, start at the top, right here, and then go down. And if you're having trouble bracing your fingers on something, just stick them in this curve here, and then go slowly. If it doesn't work out the first time, it doesn't matter, because a lot of it will be carved away eventually. And then for the lower half of this, again, you can't really do it from here because your tool will not fit. Start at the middle and go downward for the down portion. So up portion is upward, except for this, and down portion is downward. So mostly intuitive after you do it once or twice. And if you feel like the wood isn't really going the way it's supposed to be going, there's too much resistance, then try doing it the other direction, because sometimes the grain of the wood will be such that it'll only want to be carved one direction. All right, so carve that just a little bit down, and you can really, again, just choose what you feel like choosing. If you like it, then keep it. And then we'll do the same on the second side, and now you've had practice doing it on one side, so you'll be all ready for the second side. And eventually, you will do this on all of the petals on this lotus, like that. Then this one, like that. And then you'll probably have to go upward again to make it a smooth transition from the curve to down here. All right. Now that we've made a gap, so we've differentiated our petal from the rest, as I said, you will do the same thing on this line, and so on and so forth. Then it's time to separate the top of the petal from all the other petals. So we're going to follow the lines we drew, but only this one line. We will take out this portion later with a different tool. So it's like I said again, just the one really big curve. All right, so we've gotten that differentiated. Now it's time to make this look like this. And that seems daunting, but trust me, you can do it. So we'll take our round tool, just like a little scoop, and we will just follow this small curve that is concave down. Just follow that, like that. And then, as soon as you get to the edge, use a bigger tool and follow it straight down. And then, again, since you're going upward now, you have to turn it around, start at the middle, and go upward. As I said, every wood is different. This wood is a little brittle, so you have to be a little more careful while using it. So as long as you create a nice little indentation in this area, that's good. And then start at the middle and go downwards to make the downward indentation. And at the end, you should have a sort of ridge on the side of your petal, and then a little valley made by this round tool. All right. Then we're going to shape this to make it round. Just with our round tool, just cut it into a round shape. And then, once that's done, we will repeat this on the other side. Just like this. And then we will do it from the center. And as you can see, I've had quite a bit of practice making these, so now I can do it faster. You may have to go a little slower your first time, but don't worry. You will get the hang of it. And then I'm going to go all the way close to my black line, and then when I come down here, I'm going to make it vertical, so it cuts straight down, like that. And then, once that's there, we have to make this side round as well, so we'll just cut that out, make a little round shape. Just like a petal in nature, it's very round, no pointy edges. And then we'll do that Same thing that I did on this side, making it sharper on the left side, just like this. All right. If you feel it needs to be rounder like I do here, just go ahead and do that. If you feel you need to make it deeper, again, go ahead and do that. It's all your choice. So, next, we are going to use our flat chisel, pretty simple, and let's make the slope down so that it's not there's not an abrupt difference between this and this. Just like that. So now you can see it's a very gentle curve. Do the same on the other side. And voila, we've made the shape. Now it's time for the detail work. That's a pretty quick one. So as you can see, there are a bunch of lines on this. They're all made by the same pattern. And so you'll just go down like this. I'll just show you on one side. So you go down once like this, starting at the top and going around. You'll have to be careful when you do this. Then you're going to have 2 lines like that on each side. And then you're going to take the round tool that you used before to make this indentation over here. You're going to take that round tool, the small one, and go down the center. We're going to have 3 in the center, so 1 on each side. So 1 here, and then 1 here. Again, if the wood isn't acting the way you want it to, just flip it around like that. And then 1 in the center. And you'll want to sand this. Just stand in the crevices. And you will have something that looks exactly like this. And you will repeat the same process down here. So, just to recap, we started out with something that looked like this, just a block of wood. We drew our drawings using our rectangular method, making these widths. Then we drew it on the sides. We took out the sides. We ended up with something square. Nature isn't square, so we decided, oh, let's make it round. When we made it round, we got this beautiful lotus-looking thing, and we did each of the petals. And as you can see, it turns out to be very beautiful, lotus-like. And I know that you are capable of this, so don't be daunted that this looks so fancy. As I just showed you, it's a very simple step-by-step procedure. Thank you for watching. I'd like to thank everyone at the Media Center, my parents, all the volunteers here that made this show a success, and especially my teachers, Sri Shivakumar and Sri Shivanandan, for teaching me this really wonderful art. I hope that you learned this. If you have any questions, please go to Temple Carving Demystified, the name of the show, .wordpress.com. Thank you.